Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to find an angle measure. So if you'll notice, this triangle is missing both angles. First, look to see which angle they want you to find. They want to find angle Z. What is the measure of this angle Z? Now that we're looking at angle Z, let's label the three sides. Label the hypotenuse, which didn't really matter which angle we looked at. Label the opposite side of angle Z, and label the adjacent. Then look to see which lengths are given. In other words, I'm given the hypotenuse's length and I'm given the opposite length. So then you ask yourself, which trig function uses the opposite and the hypotenuse? So I've written the three trig functions down here so we can look over here and say, okay, we want a trig function that uses the opposite and hypotenuse. Well, the opposite and the hypotenuse is the sine function. We won't be using the cosine because we don't know the adjacent. And we're not going to be using the tangent because we don't know the adjacent. So then what we do is we just write down the equation that the sine, I almost wrote tangent, the sine of our angle Z, whatever measure it is equal to the ratio of the opposite side, which is 6, divided by the hypotenuse. So now we do our inverse trig functions on our calculator. So I'm going to do the inverse sine of 6/7 to figure out what angle gave me a ratio of 6/7. So on your calculator, and again, I want to emphasize, make sure your calculator is in degree mode. I do the inverse sine of 6/7, and it gives me an angle measure of 58.997. It says round to the nearest tenth. Since it's, let me write the number down so you know what I'm doing, 58.997. Since it says round to the nearest tenth, the 9 makes the 9 go up to a 10, so it's going to be 59, a nice integer number of 59. So again, identify the angle they want you to find, angle Y. Now identify the three sides with respect to angle Y. This is the hypotenuse. This is the adjacent. And this is the opposite. Since I know the opposite side and I know the hypotenuse, I'm going to use the sine function. So again, rewind and write those down. The sine of angle Y is equal to the opposite side, which is 2, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 3. So now I take the inverse sine of 2/3, and I find out I have an angle measure of inverse sine of 2/3 is 41.81, 41.81, which if I round to the nearest tenth, it's 41.8. 41.8. In this problem, I think we'll be using the tangent key, or the tangent function. I want to know the measure of angle E. Here's E. Here's my right angle, so that makes this the hypotenuse. Not the nipsa, the hypotenuse. And this is the adjacent. And this is the opposite. And I notice I have the opposite and I have the adjacent. So that means I'm going to use the tangent, because tangent uses opposite and adjacent. Opposite side is 4. I'm going to do this. Tangent of angle E is equal to the opposite side, which is 4, divided by the adjacent side, which is 7, with respect to E, and then I just do the inverse tangent on my calculator of 4/7. So when I do the inverse tangent of 4 divided by 7, I get 29.74. And so it says to round to the nearest tenth, so it's 29.7. Hopefully this lesson actually shouldn't be too difficult as long as you can do that process of labeling the correct sides and then using the correct trig function. I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to do one more just to make sure you get this down, because this has square roots and it's the hardest you'll see, but don't let the square roots scare you. First of all, find angle R, the angle we're looking for, label the sides. This would be the hypotenuse, this would be the opposite side to angle R, and this would be the adjacent. So it looks like I know my opposite side and I know my adjacent side. So I'm going to do the tangent of R is the square root of 13 over the square root of 61. And now I'm just going to do that on my calculator. So that's why I say don't let the square roots scare you. And that gives me 0.4616. So now I got to take the inverse tangent of that 0.4616, and that gives me an angle measure of 24.78, which if I round to the nearest tenth, it's 24.8. And that's what I type in here, 24.8. Again, if you have any questions, please do bring them to class.